Hey guys, welcome to Chat with KST. I'm your girl Kay. Today we are here for a good time, not a long time, so I'll try to make this segment as quick and as brief as I possibly can. Now, we are talking, of course, Dr. Umar. You know, when Dr. Umar does have these sit downs and he is able to have these powerful conversations in a room filled with powerful people, he doesn't back down, right? And he's very straightforward and to the point when he is doing his thing, his Dr. Umar thing that he does. And I don't want to put a name on it because I feel like Dr. Umar has a special unique way in which he does him. So I want to call it Dr. Umarin, right? When Dr. Umars, it it's something special about it to me, not just about the viewpoints that he has, but the way in which he does express himself to get there, right? So it's a lot that does go into being him, and then he also has the information to challenge certain point of views and stuff of that sort. So Dr. Umar went and sat down on the Joe Budden network, and when he sat down with Joe Button and his crew, a topic of conversation came up, and it came up that Ish had a Caucasian girlfriend, which to me, that's no problem. But of course, when you do know Dr. Umar and you do understand what Dr. Umar stands for in terms of racial oppression and injustices against the Black community, you will understand why he does feel the way that he feel and he does hold the sentiments that he hold, right? So what I wanted to do for you guys real quick is play for you guys exactly what transpired between Dr. Umar and Ish. And I'll also interject at moments so that we can discuss, right? So let me play it for you guys.
Comes in here and clean this motherfucking apartment. Joe might not know who the fuck cleans this
Something
apartment.
just hit me.
Oops,
Are you mixed
the
race?
volume is off. Let me see.
No.
Or you're a bunny hopper?
Yes. Per your, hold
That's
on.
why
That's
you
not
have
true.
a liberal
That's
perspective.
not true. That's not
because you go home
That's
to a
not
white
true.
woman.
Yes, but that's not true.
Okay, so the first question Dr. Umar asked is, are you a bunny hopper? Now, this is not to, because this is, of course, my platform here. So I just want to make sure that we are all understanding that Dr. Umar words aren't K's words. This is how he feels, right? So bunny hopping to Dr. Umar is when someone of the Black community dates outside of their race, especially to a Caucasian male or female. So that's the question that he posed to Ish, right? And then let's see what Ish's response was.
I felt this way before I met my white girlfriend.
So help me understand how you could be so passionate about the black.
I'm passionate. I'm an objective thinker. I don't. If something makes
So
sense,
you have no loyalty to the Black community.
No, I do have. I probably employ more Blacks than you.
Okay. So help me understand that you employ more Blacks than me, but you go home to a white woman. Why you don't have a Black woman?
Because I fell in love with a white woman, not a Black.
Why didn't you fall in love with a Black woman?
I fell in love with a Black woman. We broke up.
Okay. And why didn't you fall in love with another Black woman?
I did that too. We broke up.
Okay. And why didn't you get another one and another one and another one until you found the right one?
Because I met a white woman that I fell in love with, and that's the person that
and you're being disingenuous about
something.
Not true. And let me tell you what you're being disingenuous about.
True.
Romance is a function of focus and opportunity. If I want to date an Asian, I'm going to put myself around Asian women so I can.
Okay, real quick, right? I've never heard romance described in that manner in which it was just described, right? Romance being about focus and opportunity and where you may be and who you may be surrounded by and stuff like that. Because in some weird way, it does matter who you're surrounded by and what community you do live in and who is in close proximity to you, because at the end of the day, some people like a Dr. Umar may be disciplined to say, hey, even though I do go to, and you will hear this later on in the clip, Caucasian schools, and I go around all these different white women, I personally don't want to date them. Whereas someone who may not be as disciplined or may not hold the same values of Dr. Umar, they may say, hey, you know what? Um, I just want to date who I want to date, right? But let's listen.
And find one.
Sure.
If I want to date a Latino, I'm going to put myself around Latino women so I can date one. If you wanted to marry a black woman, you would have put yourself around black women so you can find one. So how did you end up with the Caucasian? No disrespect to her.
No, not at all. What I'm telling you is the places that I go socially are not just monolithic.
So what? I went to a white college, white job. I never bunny hopped.
Listen to my question. Let me answer you. That wasn't my priority. My priority wasn't, I'm not closed off to dating Latino women. I'm not closed off to dating Asian women. I'm not closed off to dating white women. So again, in my search for romance, all of those things were on the table.
But you do understand that by not being with a black woman, you undermine the success of the black community.
That's your opinion.
That's my opinion. Then tell me how the black community benefits from you having a white woman.
If I lend to the financial uplifting of that community, one. That's one thing. Two, if I'm helping to educate the people in that particular community, that's a benefit.
Does not your white woman benefit more from your economics than any black person?
Yeah, probably.
Exactly.
So why can't they both be mutually beneficial?
You want to know why? Because she belongs to the group that is responsible for the historical oppression of your race.
So
why would you voluntarily go over and marry into that? Because when you marry the woman, you don't just marry the woman or date the woman. You're dating her community and her culture. And given the history of us and them, why would you dare align yourself with that if you care about us?
Let me ask you a question. I want you to let me get my answers out.
Go ahead.
So hypothetically, our manager.
Okay. So that was like kind of the end of the clip. And I kind of wanted you guys to focus real quick on what Dr. Umar said in that ending of the clip, where he says that, because I think a lot of times we want to make it a race thing, a black or a white thing. And I think it's in these moments Dr. Umar does shine very bright, right? And we are kind of able to see some of the things that he is actually saying. And it's not about him being racist and him hating a subset of people. It's about saying, hey, how does it benefit your community? And in other communities, and I don't want to call names, they do consistently tell their children that they do have to marry into these societies and they can't marry outside of these societies. And I think Dr. Umar is just saying, hey, like, why do we as Black people continue to work against and do things that aren't beneficial to our race and to the longevity of our race? And even that in itself is going to be something that is scrutinized, and people are going to look down upon it and say, well, how dare him tell who and what to date and all of that. So it's a lot of different moving pieces going on in this clip here, where on one side, and I apologize if you can hear the noise, but if you can't, then it's a little bit distracting for me personally. But on one hand, you have Dr. Umar. Not Dr. Umar. On one hand, you have my own perspective that, hey, you know what? To hell with it. Date who the hell you want to date. It's none of my business. You go date this person. You go date that person. You date Black, Chinese, Muslim. I don't want to say Muslim because that's not a race. You want to date white. You want to date whoever, Spanish, Latino. You want to date whoever. Date whoever you want. And I do want to bring Muslim into it because it doesn't matter, right? Like, there is that perspective of mine where it's like Muslim, Buddha, Christian, it's none of my business, right? And outside of that perspective, when you do listen to another person and not listen to judge, but actually listen to understand Dr. Umar's point of view, you can see how he has dedicated his life to the success of the Black community and the success of teaching the Black community how to operate so that they do have longevity and success. Because at the end of the day, as Black women, if Black men aren't dating Black women, we now too are going outside of our race, right? And it's not to say that, hey, going outside of your race is wrong, but it's like, if black men and black women are dating outside of their race while other races are being told not to do it, then where does that kind of leave us, right? And it's a lot, like I said, it's a lot of moving pieces. And I do love when Dr. Umar does sit down and do these different interviews, because he opens up like my mind to this, to see things that I've never really kind of saw, things that I've had a blind spot to, like dating whoever you want to date, and then realizing that, hey, no, probably perhaps choosing to have a black king by your side is the best bet, Kay. Like just kind of hearing that perspective, and not being judgmental towards it. But I want to hear your perspective, right? Because I do have a shift in my perspective each and every time I do listen to Dr. Umar, which is why I love listening to him so much. What is your opinion? Are you someone who's like, hey, date whoever you want to date, it's none of my business? Look, I don't care who they are. Or is it a situation where you do agree with Dr. Umar and feel like in order for the Black community to have longevity and to have that communal and that family structure, they can't continuously go outside of their race and date their oppressor, because dating the oppressor in some way, shape, or form sends the wrong messages, not just to the children that you have, but also to the people around, right? Because not only are you now exposing your children to different things, racism and all these different things, but then you're also, is so much that he goes into. It's so much. But let me pull back just a little bit, because this interview, it was behind a paywall, and I do think that Joe Budden will release it to us on his public network. So I'm kind of waiting for that to happen. But if he don't, I'll eventually go onto Patreon and buy it. But that's where the full interview is if you do want to know it. And I've watched so many Dr. Umar interviews. I kind of understand where his thought processes are going. But again, I myself am not Dr. Umar, so I don't want to like really go into hit detail about his point of views and perspective as it relates to race and certain structures and cultures, and the influence of slavery on people mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically to this day, right? But anyway, share your thoughts and comments down below. I look forward to hearing from you, and we'll chat next time. Bye.